Today, retirement is treated as an expected chapter of life, a time of leisure subsidized by savings and government support. But if that safety net disappears, the reality of aging reverts to what it was for most of history, working until your body gives out, or relying entirely on your family to survive. By 1930, the United States was a glaring exception on the global stage. While many modern industrial nations had developed national systems of social insurance, American workers faced old age with almost no federal protection. When the Great Depression hit, it disproportionately shattered the lives of the elderly. Life savings were wiped out in an instant, leaving older Americans with no capital and no way to compete for the few remaining jobs. The traditional fallback, moving in with children, collapsed. With mass unemployment sweeping the country, younger families waited in breadlines themselves, completely unable to take on the financial weight of caring for aging parents. Millions of older Americans were suddenly destitute all at once. Caring for the aged was no longer a private family matter. It was an immediate crisis that threatened the stability of the entire economy. People did not suffer quietly. Massive grassroots movements erupted across the country, organizing protests and demanding direct cash relief from the federal government to stave off starvation. In the middle of this unrest, a physician named Francis Townsend galvanized millions of supporters around a radical idea. He proposed that the federal government issue direct payments of $200 a month to every citizen over the age of 60. Townsend's plan was designed to solve two problems at once. The required spending of that monthly cash would stimulate market demand, while forcing seniors to retire would open up jobs, decreasing the labor supply for younger workers. President Franklin D. Roosevelt historically disliked the idea of permanent government handouts. But the sheer political momentum of the Townsend Plan forced his administration to design a pragmatic, permanent alternative before the situation escalated further. Conceding that federal intervention was necessary, Roosevelt tasked a specific group, the Committee on Economic Security, to draft a national pension and unemployment insurance program. He placed Secretary of Labor Frances Perkins in charge. She was the primary architect responsible for designing a comprehensive social welfare system from scratch. Roosevelt insisted the program could not be funded by general tax revenue. Instead, it was built on individual worker contributions. Taxes would be collected directly from payrolls, with employers and employees paying an equal share into a newly established Treasury account. This specific funding mechanism became known as the Federal Insurance Contributions Act tax, or FICA. FICA is a United States federal payroll tax deducted from employees' paychecks to fund Social Security and Medicare. By tying benefits directly to how much a worker paid into the system, Roosevelt framed the payouts as earned insurance, insulating the program from politicians who might try to dismantle a standard welfare program. The 1935 Social Security Act contained multiple pillars. Alongside old age pensions, it established an unemployment insurance system administered by individual states and created the Aid to Dependent Children program to support families headed by single mothers. Because the tax took an equal percentage from everyone, regardless of income, it did not act as a tool for wealth redistribution. Instead, it functioned as a mandatory savings mechanism, ensuring that future generations would not fall into catastrophic dependency. Getting the bill through a deeply divided Congress required Roosevelt to make severe political compromises. To secure votes, the administration drafted the legislation to explicitly exclude vast swaths of the American workforce from coverage. The initial safety net completely locked out agricultural workers, leaving farm laborers without any pension guarantees or unemployment insurance. It also omitted domestic servants, meaning maids, housekeepers, and caregivers were left entirely unprotected by the new federal system. These job categories were not chosen at random. Because of these specific exclusions, 65% of the African American workforce was denied participation in the defining economic program of the New Deal. Even with these compromises, the act faced severe legal threats. In 1937, opponents dragged the program before the Supreme Court, arguing that the federal government was overstepping its constitutional authority by forcing states and businesses to comply. The court ultimately upheld the program in a case called Helvering v. Davis. The justices ruled that the payroll taxes were a valid exercise of Congress's constitutional power to tax and spend for the general welfare. The 1935 legislation was highly restrictive, but it survived legal execution. It established the physical bureaucracy, the tax mechanisms, and the account numbers that cemented a permanent federal safety net into everyday American life. This timeline shows the expansion of Social Security. In 1939, benefits were extended to spouses, widows, and dependents. In 1950, the COLA was introduced to counteract inflation. By 1954, 10 million excluded individuals, like farmers, joined. Then, in 1965, Medicare and Medicaid were established. Over 30 years, these continuous legislative additions took a highly restricted pension plan and expanded it to cover nearly the entire population, moving closer to the comprehensive cradle-to-grave security that Frances Perkins had originally envisioned. This chart plots poverty by age. In the 1950s, Americans over 65 had the highest poverty rate. As contributions compounded, the data inverted. Senior poverty plummeted to historic lows. Concurrently, wealth shifted, and Americans aged 55 to 75 now hold the largest percentage. In just a few generations, aging in the United States transitioned from a guarantee of financial vulnerability to a period of statistical stability. By systematically organizing forced savings and federal payouts, the government engineered the near eradication of poverty for an entire demographic.